Hi, team. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all excited for today's roundup call. Yeah, so we'll start with some enhancements that were done on the CHW's countdown timer widget. Yes, so if you've interacted with some workflows for under 5 assessments, most probably you've came across a timer that actually counts down time. Yeah, I've seen one that counts down time for a minute. Yeah, the typical timer here. So you count down some minutes and you do assessments, and that is counting the number of breaths per minute. Okay. Yeah, so I'll start. On our slides here, we have now the problem that we are trying to solve. So at the moment, that is all the CHT apps that run the CHT core less than 4.7.0. We have a challenge with the countdown timer implementation on those apps. And the challenge here is we can't set a required constraint for that timer. And that I mean, we really can't quote force a user, a CHW, to wait for the counter to complete running before they can view the next question or the next page of that particular workflow. Yeah, so that is the problem. And why do we need to solve it? Yeah, for matters data accuracy, validity, and everything, you need to ensure that at least the user stays on that particular page, waits for the timer to complete before they record for us the number of breaths per minute. Yeah, when assessing a sick child. Yeah. So that is a problem, and the solution. Yeah, so the solution after brainstorming with the team here at Living Goods and our partner Medic, a simple solution would be to, of course, make the countdown widget a required field. Yeah, so that you can have the CHW press on that timer and wait for the full 1 minute. Yeah, 1 minute is a default period that the timer should run. Give it a minute before they can proceed to answer. There's a question that asks how many breaths per minute. Yeah, before they answer that question, at least the timer must complete running. Yeah, so the solution is to make that widget a required field. Okay. Yeah, so however, that wasn't enough. We tried that on a note question type. We also tried that on a text question type. And it's actually a challenge setting required for such question types. Basically, it won't work. Yeah. So there's a column on your X form where you can have a yes or required yes or true. However, that won't work with a timer that is implemented on a note question type, text question type. Yeah, those two at least we noticed it won't work for such. Yeah, so the solution here is to have that timer implemented on a trigger type of question. And not going to the technical details of it, with a trigger, it's actually set to accept an okay value. Yeah, so you can require a user to press, it appears as a radio button, to press on the radio button and have it with an okay value. Yeah, but the tricky bit here, we are not having that UI radio button for the user. I'll show you when we go to the demo. Yeah, we've done some tricks on the back end to disable that question from appearing on the user's device, but the timer itself in the background works on a triggered question type, and it will set that trigger to an okay when the trigger completes, or rather the countdown timer completes running. Yeah, not worry, I'll show you during our demo in a few. So that is a solution. And right here, I have a screenshot of how this looks like on a workflow that does assessments for sick children. And here, the expected output on the web app should look like this. So you have a question here under the breathing section. And as a CHW user, you are asked to press the timer and count the number of breaths for a full 60 seconds. Yeah, that is 1 minute. And you're supposed to do this 2 times. Yeah, so implementing the count on time on a trigger question type, this is what you'll have. You'll have that field as required. Nice. And the slides next here. Now, this is now for app developers. Yeah, developers working on the X forms. Yeah, so there's a change that is needed to have that enhancement working for you. So I think this is only what a dev needs to do, and that is on the XLSX form. So on that, we have a settings tab. I'm sure you've seen that if you've developed workflows on the XLSX form. There's a settings tab. We have a survey tab. Yeah, so those two will be our focus. On the settings tab, there's a value you need to set. Actually, you need to set a new column, add a new column, and that column will be labeled namespaces. And the value to that will be the URL as you can see on our slide here. Yeah, so that is what you need, at least for the XLSX to work as expected and have a count on timer set as required. So you need to add that column and that value on the settings tab. Then on the survey tab, there's a new question, as I've mentioned, with a type as trigger. So on the type column, you'll set where you need your timer countdown to be at, you'll have that question type as a trigger. And I think this is how it used to be before. Appearance still remains as countdown timer. Then we have another column on the survey tab that you need to add, and that is instance. Those are double semicolons and CHT duration. Yeah, so what that does is as an app developer, you might need to add a custom duration for your countdown widget. The default is 1 minute, 60 seconds, but if you need it to run for 2 minutes or 10 seconds, you can actually do that on that. There's a CHT duration column for you to configure your timer duration. All right. Yeah, and of most importance, everything here is important, but you need to set your required to true. Yes, so that you have it required that CHW needs to wait for the timer to run to completion before moving on to the next question or the next page of the workflow. All right. Yeah, and build your branch with the latest changes. Now, I think this is for test. While we were doing the development, you needed to switch to the main, to the master branch of the CHT core project and push the latest changes. Yeah. However, the feature has since been deployed, so you won't need to do this. You don't need to have the CHT core project running locally on your machine for you to enjoy this feature. It has been deployed. All you need to do, as long as you are on CHT core version 4.7 and above, we expect it to run as expected. Have the field set to required. Okay. Yeah, now since you'll be making changes to your XLSX form, then definitely you are required to convert and upload your XLSX form, push it to your particular project, all right? And then finally, just to confirm everything works as expected, you'll need to view that widget on the app itself, okay? Whether it's on the mobile app or the web app. Yeah, just to confirm now that the constraint is respected for countdown widgets, all right? Now, which version supports this feature? Now, trigger has been implemented. The trigger implementation has been is currently being supported on CHT core version 4.7 onwards, all right? So for the previous versions of CHT core, the note implementation has been deprecated, but that doesn't mean it can't be used. You still use account and time on the older version of CHT. However, only a note is supported for those versions. And as I've mentioned, you can't set a note as a required field. Yeah, so that means if you have to enjoy this feature, then you need to upgrade your CHT core to at least 4.7.0. This I have a demo. It will be very brief, so I'll go ahead and share my screen. Yeah, so here I have a local instance that is running on CHT core version 7.0. The configs here are for a particular project we are running internally. Yeah, but to be specific, I'll open one workflow for assessments, and that is under a family. Okay, so there's a family here, and I have registered a child who is under 5. Okay, there's an under 5 child. Yeah, because my workflow needs the patient age to be less than 5. And I have this workflow here labeled assessment endemic. Okay, so I'll quickly move on to the widget itself. Yeah, there we go. Now, so on the, let me see, on the XLSX side, now let me show you what I just mentioned on the slides. So we have the survey tab and the settings tab, these two. So let's focus on the two. So first on the settings, this is what I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. So there's a new column here labeled namespaces. Yeah, right there. So you need namespaces column, and that's the value. Then on this other section of the workflow, on the survey side, now my question that implements the countdown timer, it's under this group labeled breathing. And actually I have two of them. I have two counter implementations. The first one, and of course the second one, to confirm whatever the CHW did input on the first timer. Okay. Yeah, like CHWs need to confirm the accounts, yeah, before we can proceed to the next set of questions. Yeah. So here we go. So we have a question here, and the type, on the type column, you set the type to a trigger. It's a trigger type of question. I think this is obvious. You give your field a name, and that's the label of that field. And yeah, right here on the required column. Yeah, required column, you need to set that to true. Yeah, you can have it this way, true, or a yes. Yeah, simply a yes. So any can work. Then the other column, the new column that we added right here, instance CHT duration. Yeah, this will support custom timer durations, but the default is 1 minute. Okay, so for my case, I'm not setting any value here. I'll use the default 1 minute for the timers. Oops, where is it? Right here. Okay, so that's it for the workflow. Let me go back, switch to this tab. And here we have the timer on the web app. Now, as a CHW user, if I try to navigate to the next page, now you see the constraint is working. Yeah, so I'm forced to wait for the timer to complete before I move on to the next page. And also before I answer that question of how many breaths per minute, okay, to ensure whatever you input in that question is accurate. So you have to click on that timer, give it a minute to complete running. Okay. Let's give it a minute. Almost done. Nice, and there we go. So once the completes running, now you can view the next question, how many breaths per minute. Input the value, of course, you'll be counting the number of breaths. And then next, confirm the child's number of breaths. Again, run the second timer. Configure just like the first one. You can proceed to the next page until it runs to completion. Then do the same thing, press on the timer and wait for it to run to completion. Yeah, so that's basically it. There's a lot that happens in the background, of course. So when it completes running, as I mentioned, this implementation is supported on a trigger type of question. So the trigger will update to an okay value once the timer completes running. And with that input, the field constraint will work. There's an input provided, an okay. Yes, so the constraint at that point will pass and the user can proceed to the next page. Perfect, and that's that. So you confirm, and then nice, you can move on to the next page. Yes, so that is the enhancement, and yeah, it will support the work the CHWs are doing. And of course, the objective here is to share accurate data on the number of breaths per minute for child assessments. All right. So the next slide, I'm sure it's about references, and I can just proceed and share. So this feature has been documented. There's a link here to the official CHT docs. You can read about it here. Everything that I've explained. Yeah, there's a brief write-up here on how to have that feature working for you. And what else? The GitHub page showing you the work we've been doing. Yeah, there's a lengthy conversation here. That is, if you need to, follow and see how we came, how we had that work around working for us. You can always follow the conversation right here. Otherwise, that's it. And this has been deployed and should be working for CHT apps running CHT Core version 4.7.0 onwards. Yes, and I can now welcome questions. If anyone has questions, then I'll try my level best to answer.
Abigail, I have a quick question. So you mentioned for the version on the 4.7, it's integrated, right?
Yes, it should be integrated. Yeah, because I noticed when I was running my local instance, I did not have to push app settings or anything, and the feature was already reflected on the web app. Yeah, so I want to believe that has been deployed and it's available as I confirmed.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Cohn, and I'm a product manager here at Medic. Today, I'm excited to share some updates on our work to better support supervisors in the CHT, as well as some updates on some significant performance improvements that CHWs will enjoy on the contacts page. So last month, I spoke about work we are doing to better support supervisors who manage multiple health units. And before I show you the changes that are being made, I'll do a quick recap of why we're making this change. So the hierarchy you see here is pretty typical. Supervisors are associated to one community health unit, and they supervise all CHWs in that CHU. And there's a one-to-one relationship between the supervisor and the CHU. In many scenarios, though, we're seeing one supervisor managing multiple CHUs. And we've seen some projects had some pretty creative workarounds to manage this, like giving the supervisor 2 separate logins for the same person, or even creating different hierarchy levels above that CHU and then associating the supervisor to that. But really what they wanted is to just be able to associate that supervisor to multiple CHUs, so that supervisor can have just one user account and we don't have to create any new hierarchy levels. And the work that we're doing right now is making that possible. And I'd like to show you what it's going to look like for those users. So when a supervisor is associated to only one CHU, their view looks like the screenshot on the left. They'll see their CHU at the top, and all their CHW areas are listed below. For supervisors with multiple CHUs, what this will look like for them is the list view will show only the CHUs they are associated to, and it will not show the giant list of CHW areas beneath all of those CHUs. When we did usability testing on this feature with supervisors, we heard that they really preferred to not see the CHWs all together in this list view. But for the supervisors that are associated to multiple CHUs, to find the CHW that they're looking for, the supervisor will just tap on the CHU in the list, and then on the profile page, on the detailed page, they'll see the list of CHW areas there, and then they can just select it from that list. And on the tasks and reports pages, supervisors will see content related to all the CHUs all together, sort of intermingled here. And we've added an additional level to the breadcrumbs, so that little lineage thing underneath each row, to make it easier to see which CHU that CHW belongs to. And additionally, on the reports tab, the standard filters will work as usual. And of course, the lineage that you see here is all based on your configuration. So also not pictured here is the messages page, but we basically did the same thing there. Content across the different CHUs will be all shown together in the list, and we added the additional level of breadcrumbs. Finally, on the targets page for supervisors that have multiple CHU, the personal targets will continue to work as normal, but we are disabling the aggregate targets for those users. I expect us to address this in a future release, but we're making this work for making this work for supervisors with multiple CHUs will require a bit more work, and we didn't want that to block the rest of this feature. So yeah, so that's a quick overview of the changes that we're making to support this. Hang on, I have a forum post I want to just share with you. Where's the messages? Oh, here's the chat. Here is the forum post. If you have any questions or you want to engage with us there, or you want to ask questions now, that's fine too. I see a question. Is there any limit to the number of CHUs a supervisor can be assigned to? What happens if there's an overall supervisor under multiple ones? I'll answer the first one first. Technically, there's no real limit to the number of CHU a supervisor can be assigned to. Obviously, there are there's a relationship to the number of CHUs they manage and the amount of data on their phone, but there's no specific limit to how many CHUs they can manage. What happens if there's an overall supervisor under overall under multiple? I'm not sure if I understand that question. What happens if there's an overall supervisor under multiple ones?
Moses, would you like to clarify the question for Michael?
Yeah, yes, I can speak to it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, first of all, for this great work. I'm looking at a situation where I'm a supervisor supervising some CHWs at a given facility or CHU. But then I have other colleagues or bosses up there who supervise multiple of us. Personally, I'm this CHU, then there are other colleagues of mine at different SHU. Now, what about the other person who is supervising us? Is he able to see also these other ones and our respective units? I hope it is clear now.
I'm not sure
Hello?
where. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what, like where this other supervisor is in the hierarchy, but basically you can associate, you can set up a user that you can kind of pick and choose which CHUs they're able to see. So I don't know, maybe is there somebody else on the call that's maybe understands this question better?
I've lost you. I didn't hear you well.
Yeah, I'm not totally following what the hierarchy scenario is that you're talking about. But this can be set up
I
at different.
think Jovia is on this call. Jovia Medic, she could be understanding what I'm talking about. Jovia, do you want support?
Hey everyone, Moses. So what Michael is trying to understand, looking at our hierarchy, we have a community health workers, those are the VHTs, then the health assistants who sit at the facility and at the moment are the ones who are supervising the community health workers. So what you're trying to ask, is it that you're looking at another hierarchy beyond the HA, or are you trying to, because right now this solution would be addressing a situation where you find one health assistant has more than one facility that they're overseeing.
Yes, that is very true. So this solution is addressing that. But now we have, for example, a DHO or a biostatistician supervising these HAs at the different health facilities. And the biostatistician would be interested to know the different HAs, what they are doing, how they are supporting the CHWs. So I'm talking about the district people now, the biostatistician, the district health officers, and the like. Would this solution, is there a way this solution can also support them?
So maybe just before Meko comes in, this specific solution is for the supervisor view, and it is addressing the situation at that level. Because right now we do not have a view, and maybe because also Solomon and media here on this call, we don't have a view for the districts. Right now, for those people at that high level of hierarchy, would be now trying to, like they would probably try to view the performance of these ones through dashboards. And I think that's a conversation we've had, how to incorporate that bit, especially when we're talking about the choose that level, having them access the performance of the supervisors through the dashboards, but not through the app.
Yeah, that should be no problem if it's going through the dashboards. Cool. Another question, will the target aggregates be configurable but not visible, or will they not be? This is just because the target aggregates are still relevant and will still work fine for users that have, for supervisors that only manage one community health unit. So yeah, you can definitely still configure them, but for users that have multiple community health units, it will just not show that page.
Hi, Michael. There's an interesting development with program delivery teams in Kenya and Uganda. where they're experimenting with a new layer of hierarchy, which they're calling peer leads. So essentially, you'll have the supervisor at the top, peer lead, and then your CHWs right after. And the whole model is around peer supervision. And the discussions around it is actually quite long, but I'm just wondering whether introducing new hierarchy layers is something that is supported by what you're trying to introduce, or if it can be able to support this, or if not, would it make sense, or would it be possible for you guys to look into how to make hierarchies a little bit more dynamic, or allowing users or teams to be able to change hierarchies depending on how the operating model is changing in countries?
Yeah, we can definitely engage more on this, talk in more detail. In general, one of the main goals of this actually is to reduce the number of hierarchy levels that projects need, because there's kind of like a geographical hierarchy or operational hierarchy plus this like supervisory hierarchy. And we were kind of seeing projects try to accomplish both of those all within one hierarchy. And it does not work all that great that way. So this actually allows you to have a more representative hierarchy setup without having these kind of like supervisory levels in there that weren't really needed, and kind of actually messed up reporting and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd be happy to chat about this in more detail. Really, the features that we're doing here are related to basically what data the different supervisors can see. So without having to introduce new hierarchy levels that were unnecessary. But yeah, I'd be happy to chat about this in more detail. If you want to reach out to me directly, or go ahead and comment on that forum post, and we can, I'm just gonna put my email address in here real quick. Or yeah, we can definitely talk about that in more detail. Thanks for bringing up that.
Thank you.
Cool. I'll kind of go through these pretty quickly. We've been talking about this for the last 2 or 3 roundup calls. So the other thing I wanted to share with you is regarding some of the massive improvements we've made towards improving the performance of the CHT for health workers. So for these last few roundup calls, we've been sharing updates on our efforts to implement Apdex scoring in the CHT. This basically allows you to easily evaluate the performance of the app based on how fast different pages are loading. Those features, the features that enable you to do this, are in 4.7, and there's a forum post that describes how you can use Apdex to evaluate the performance in your app, and that's it right there. So internally, we've been using Apdex to quantify some performance improvements in a couple of areas of the app. The first area that we worked on was speeding up the list view of the contacts page. And we were able to make some pretty significant improvements here. The baseline for this had a score of 0.68, which kind of evaluated to poor. And we were able to increase this to 0.91. I do want to point out that these tests were run on a physical device with a relatively low spec. I think it was 2 gig of RAM. So these are like kind of the typical devices that we're seeing being used by health workers in various countries. These were simulated tests, but they were recorded, like I said, on the physical devices, and we ran these tests 60 times for each page. So yeah, we're pretty excited about a pretty significant performance increase. So basically, you know, the list view here on the contacts page, you'll on slow devices, you would see it, the spinner there for a while when people went to the contacts page or the people page. And now this will be significantly faster. We also worked on speeding up the detail view of the contacts page. So this really is dependent on your configuration, but the configuration we used to test this had CHW areas, households, and people in the hierarchy, and we also had some pretty significant, complicated contact summaries and condition cards in these tests. But the changes that we made were they were in CHT core, they weren't configuration changes. So the performance improvements you see that I'm showing here will benefit your project as well. But the amount that it like the baseline and the after will probably be a little bit different based on your configuration. But here you can see that the CHW area profile page went from a 0.76 to a 0.88. On the household profile, the score went from 0.63 to 0.78. And the person profile, it was excellent before and it's excellent after. The person profile doesn't have as many of like the amount of data that needs to load is a lot less. So that's why the changes were not as big there, but also that page runs fast already. So yeah, there's still room for improvement in some of these areas, but overall there are some pretty significant performance improvements across all views of the contacts page. And yeah, if you want to see some more details about how we tested things, and what we did to test and how we went across the process, there's a forum post for that. And yeah, I think that's it on the performance enhancements.
Not really a question, but for clarification, based on the question that was just been asked from one of the members regarding the supervisor, the hierarchy. So I was thinking, in case there's an introduction of a superior supervisor, then can we simply just assign those CHUs, those units that are assigned to the lower supervisors, and still reassign the same to the senior supervisor, so that whatever they're able to do, this senior supervisor can still be able to do the same or access the same information, if that would have solved the issue. And that will be assuming that a CHU can also be assigned to 2 or more supervisors.
Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely have a senior supervisor that has more CHUs assigned to them than the normal supervisor. That should probably work. I'm happy to have all this engagement on that feature. That's exciting that people are really excited about this feature. So thank you for that.
Wonder if this feature is already pushed in the tool.
It's not released yet. We are currently working on it. And yeah, we're making good progress. I should be able to demo it soon. And yeah, it'll probably be in the next release.
Hi again. Just wanted to chat more about the navigation. If you were here last month, it's more of the same. Nothing has changed, except for we are still looking for folks to get this in front of. We are on the last stage of our UI evolution. So if you've been following the updates, we've changed the bottom bar to a fav. We've made some changes to the filters. And that's something that we've been working on for the past, I want to say, year or so. We've had this plan for the UI overhaul to align to material design. And yeah, the navigation is the last part of that. It's very exciting stuff on our end. And it is going to be a big visual change. This is the navigation where we're currently at. This is the updated version. So we're moving tabs to the bottom. Top bar is going to have the page name, and the menu is going to be a drawer more similar to other Android experiences. So yeah, hopefully nothing new. And as I mentioned earlier with the poll, we're looking for different projects who will be willing to help get this in front of CHWs ahead of the rollout to help us better understand where there might be some confusion or where we can support with getting this out. Because yeah, it's going to be a big change and we want to be here to help. That's it for me.
Today I'll talk about some recent changes to the CHT Sync project that we've been working on. So a refresher. Just an introduction. I'm Jugana. I'm a software engineer at Medic, specifically on the ecosystem team. So a refresher on CHT Sync. That is our new project for getting data out of CouchDB and into Postgres, primarily for analytics, but for anything else, if you want to query the data, Postgres is more ideal for that than CouchDB. What is Redis? Redis is an in-memory store that is primarily built for speed because like all the data is stored in memory. And what you are seeing on your screen there is just some metrics of like the throughput that we managed to get when we introduced Redis. So on the left-hand side is the before, on the right-hand side is after, and you want to look at the output throughput primarily because that's this is a log cache. So you can see we are moving from 8.2 for the last minute and the lifetime of 8.7. So that means like whenever like 60 sync was running, we were processing 8.7 records per second. On the right hand side, you see that goes up to all the way to 979. So like a pretty significant bump up in terms of just raw performance. And this is especially important for projects that would be migrating from Couch to PG to CHT Sync. If you have like a lot of records and you have millions and millions of records, it will be now much faster to migrate that and have it everything updated and up to speed. In terms of next steps, this was just a brief overview. We'll provide more technical details in a forum post or in a later roundup call, depending on what seems appropriate. But right now, we're happy with the progress we've seen, and we'll update the community as we continue to iterate on it. That's it from me. I'll take any questions.
Just a quick question. Any way we can follow up on this? Juguna, you mentioned it's on the CHT forum. Do you have any link where we can follow up on this one? Or can
no.
New topic?
Yes, so we'll create a new topic on the forum, providing more technical details once we iron out a few things, especially monitoring. So keep on the lookout for that. Right now, the best place to follow it is on the actual repo. I'll link it right now just to see what is currently being worked on.
Great, thank you.